Thy dreams come true.
Well, good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday, May 21st, 2024. And welcome to BS3 Presents, the morning show for Cole Johnson. I am your host, Cole Johnson. And for the next 60 minutes, sit back, relax, as we get you and keep you informed, enlightened, entertained, and spiritually fed. On the program today, we're going to take a trip back into time, into Stax Records, Soulsville, USA. And well, they've had a documentary done on the program, and I'll give you a little, I guess, tidbit on things. Also, we will touch on the alliteration heard around the world. Yes. Oh my goodness. The alliteration that Representative Jasmine Crockett popularized in a hearing, and now it has gone viral. And plus, we will talk about working beyond yourself and working beyond man as well. That is all for later today, but for now, let's get you started. Start you up. And here's what's going on in the world today. Draftable. Yes, that's the word used to describe Bronny James coming out of the NBA's draft combine, which concluded Sunday in Chicago. Now, that does not mean that Bronny will be selected in the 2024 draft, NBA draft that's in June, but it does mean he's a legitimate prospect, possibly a potential second round one. And there are scouts and executives who don't believe that he is a second round pick. Well, yes, of course. But Mark Spears of ESPN's Anscape read harsh scouting reports of Bronny on the network's NBA Today program. It looks like he has a long ways to go. An alligator became somewhat of a traffic hazard recently, lying in the middle of a North Carolina highway for several hours. It was a surprising evening for Brunswick County Sheriff's Department, who were called May 14th to remove a big fella hanging out by a North Carolina bridge. The agency also said in a Facebook post that deputies didn't have an easy time getting the big fella out of the way, struggling to pull the reptile toward the barrier over the course of a few minutes, especially with the alligator trying to death roll their way out of the deputy's grip. Wow. A multi-vehicle crash left 4 people dead, including a teenager, and 5 injured Sunday in Bartow County in Georgia. Georgia State Patrol, in a news release, said troopers responded to the multiple vehicle crash on I-75 South around 6 p.m. on Sunday. Preliminary investigations indicated a Kia van traveling northbound on I-75 suddenly left the roadway for reasons yet known, crossed the grass median and entered the southbound lanes of I-75, where it collided with a Chevy Tahoe and a Toyota 4Runner. The Kia and the Toyota were then struck by a commercial vehicle, while a Hyundai SUV struck the rear of the Chevy. A chaotic shooting in Ohio over the weekend left 3 people dead and 3 others wounded. The incident happened in Italian Village, a neighborhood north of Columbus. The deceased victims were identified as an 18-year-old male, a 26-year-old male, and a 27-year-old male. Thanks to the Columbus Dispatch, as part of the USA Today network, they reported that 3 others were injured and transported to local hospitals, but police expected them to survive their injuries. Nearly 6 years after he gagged, bound, and buried his wife alive in a shallow grave 10 miles from their Arizona home, a man has been sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Prosecutors announced that this 62-year-old man was convicted of killing his wife, whose body was discovered in a remote area 10 miles northwest of the couple's home near Prescott in the Yavapai County District's office, or near it, I should say. The city of Prescott is about 100 miles or so northwest of Phoenix. Goodness gracious. You hate to hear things like that happen. Stand by. Oh, man. Wow. As the November general election nears, one key issue for voters across the political spectrum remains: abortion and access to reproductive rights. After the overturn of Roe versus Wade back in 2022, multiple Republican-led states have passed total abortion bans, while voters in other red states, including Kansas, Kentucky, and Ohio, have supported efforts to protect reproductive rights. Now, abortion will be on ballots in 4 states this year, while initiatives in 6 other states are still yet to be rolled out. Jelly Roll's next fitness goal. It will be competing in a half marathon. Well, at the Nashville native, the country music and sensation. And he's, I guess you could say he's a little on the hefty side. He got a chance to compete in a 5K race earlier this month, and he lost 70 pounds to do so. The Grammy-nominated country singer told Fox News Digital that he plans to do more 5Ks before the 13.1-mile race in 2025. He went on to say the following, quote, "I'm training as you can train. It's an 18-month process. The goal is to do a half marathon next fall." Close quote. The 39-year-old singer finished his first 5K in California back in May 7th in a race hosted by comedians Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura, presented by the Netflix Is a Joke Comedy Festival. Well, good luck to you, Jelly. Let's go. Ready to make waves by seemingly going on social media with a new relationship. On Monday, the Aquaman Lost Kingdom star posted several photos from a recent trip to Japan on Instagram, including one where he's seen getting cozy with actress Adria Arjona. Now, the caption on Instagram says the following, quote, "Japan, you are a dream come true. You blew my mind. We're so thankful for everyone who opened their homes, making memories with new friends and old friends, sharing another amazing adventure with mi amor." Close quote. He also went on to say, quote, "On the roam, motorcycles and mayhem." Close quote. And of course, that is alluding to his Max series of the same name. The docuseries that chronicles Momoa's trips as he travels the country chasing art, adventure, and friendship through craftsmanship. In sports on the ice, the Oilers, a thrilling back-and-forth series against the Canucks, silenced the Vancouver crowd by winning Game 7. 3-2 and advancing to the Western Conference Finals, where they will take on the Dallas Stars. The NHL will begin their conference finals matchup tomorrow night as the Eastern Conference Finals begins with the Panthers playing in Madison Square Garden against the Rangers. On the hardwood, the NBA took the night off last night as they begin their conference final stage. The Pacers and the Celtics begin game one of the Eastern Conference Finals tonight, while the Mavericks travel to Minneapolis to begin game one of their Western Conference Finals tilt against the Timberwolves. Well, that will tip off Wednesday night. Attention to weather in the Pacific Northwest. It'll be rainy, all the wet stuff you can have, and 54 in Seattle. It'll be thunderstorms and 67 in Minneapolis, partly cloudy and 89 in Chicago, mostly sunny and 88 in Detroit, windy and 91 in St. Louis. Warm and windy. Don't know how that makes sense, but I'm sorry. Going over to the East Coast, it'll be partly cloudy, 84 in Boston, mostly sunny and 80 in New York, mostly sunny and 84 in DC. Going down south, the sunny and thunderstorm mix in 86 in Miami. It'll be partly cloudy and 86 in Atlanta. It'll be mostly sunny and 89 in Memphis. It'll be mostly sunny and 87 in New Orleans. And over in the Southwest, it will be cloudy and 89 in Dallas, partly cloudy and 96 in San Antonio, partly cloudy and 89 in Houston. It will be with thunderstorms and 58 in Denver. It will be sunny and 95, sunny and 86 in Las Vegas. And over on the West Coast, it will be sunny and 68 in San Francisco. And it will be partly cloudy and 70 degrees, balmy and sunny and cloudy in LA. And that is the look on weather. And now you have been properly started up. When we return, we will touch on Soulsville, USA, the rise and fall of it. And later on, we will touch on the phrase now heard around the world and working. Not unto you or to man, but working for a bigger purpose. What does that look like? You are tuned into the Morning with Cole Johnson on the BS3 Network. We will return right after this.
BS3 Network, changing the way you watch TV.
This is a BS3 Network presentation.
I want to do a TED Talk, but I don't have anything to talk about yet. I'm getting there.
Life is for the living. We're not here that long.
You can learn anything you want to learn without any money spent.
What do I really enjoy? What do I really want out of life?
I am your host, WIZE.
Are you in a life-holding pattern? Well, this is for you. Welcome to the Stuck in My Mind podcast. Live every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 4 p.m. Central. Alicia.
You can't hold somebody to that standard if you haven't voiced what you want and what you're needing from that.
Mika.
If you're not communicating expectations, you're waiting for your feelings to be hurt.
Nicole.
Yeah. A lot of people don't want to take the time out to be alone and to get themselves together.
Ivan.
You got to be willing to work through stuff. And from the jump street y'all done had problems, maybe you don't need to be working through those.
BS3 Network proudly presents Queen 3 and King podcast. Live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central. Welcome back to the Morning Shift with Cole Johnson, as presented by the BS3 Network. And we do this all because of you, Shifter. And speaking of shifters, here is one from Indiana, Snowman. Snowman in the Morning comes on every weekday morning. And you can check out his show, Snowman in the Morning, on the Snowman Multimedia YouTube channel. He says, a shifter checking in from Indiana. He says, yes, Oilers upset the Stars in double overtime in Game 7. Yeah, thrilling action. And yes, the GM place was absolutely silent when when the Oilers scored their goal to go on in. He says, Morning Shift is off and rolling, says the Playmaker. And yes, he did a wonderful episode yesterday on recapping the beginning of the WNBA and the conclusion of these conference semifinals round in the NBA playoffs. You can probably catch him do episodes beginning the Eastern and Western Conference finals later on this week, but you can check out his stuff on the Playmakers Blog Network YouTube channel. And he'll have other stuff too that will be popping off in the summer months. Well, when you think of Stax Records, what do you see? What comes to mind? Well, for me, it would be the Sam and Dave, oh no, I'm coming, that song, or Isaac Hayes, that kid Shaft's one bad mother. Shut your mouth. On top of Shaft, we could dig it. But there's other stars, of course, that came along with that wonderful record label. And there's others that you could think of. As soon as you mention the city or the record label, you can combine them. For example, you think Motown, all of a sudden Detroit pops into mind. You think Chess Records, and all of a sudden you think Chicago. You think Philadelphia International. Oh, that's Philly. Well, that's what Stax Records was to Memphis. But why did it burn so bright and go so dark so soon and just peter out of society so fast? Well, in today's program Spotlight, we will shine a spotlight toward Soulsville, USA, the rise, the fall, and the fun in between. Now, this record began, I guess, as a colorblind idea. And then, of course, it was a family idea back in 1957 by a guy named Jim Stewart and his sister, Estelle Axton. And they decided to have a colorblind approach and tune the deaf ear to, as they would call it back then, race records. If an artist came out looking like me, they would term it as race records. If an artist came out looking like, say, Justin Timberlake doing the same thing, it would be considered a pop record. Basically, music was color coded, and it's somewhat still today, but it's a little less so now. But Stax did a lot to try their best to sort of break their way through that type of music, I guess you could say, shape and perception. So there's many songs that when you think Stax Records, that just comes to mind. I mean, and then many legendary artists. I mentioned some of them: Sam and Dave, with Soul Man, Booker T and the MGs with Green Eyes. If you don't know that song, it's been played in many movies. Isaac Hayes, I just mentioned the theme from Shaft, and there's other songs, and he did many covers over the years as well. And then, of course, there is probably the star that was supposed to be, I don't know, like the Marvin Gaye to Stax or the Teddy Pendergrass to Philadelphia International. That would be Otis Redding. And of course, you know, sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. Yes, him. Well, unfortunately, he died in a tragic plane accident. And here's another inside history for you. The song that sort of made Aretha Franklin an international name, I would say Natural Woman made her a national name, but the song Respect, which made her an international name, was done first, and it was written by the late Otis Redding. So, in relaying all of these stories, Stax Soulsville USA, that is a 4-part docuseries that is right now premiering on HBO. It premiered last night. The first 2 parts, the last 2 parts will premiere tonight. It tells the story of trying to have a soul label integrate itself into the mass society of the music industry, and it's an interesting look at how all of this happened, and it deals with all the business highs and lows, and deals with all the cultural highs and lows, and even deals with the company highs and lows. You have you know interviews that are accounted, of course, by the founders, the brother sister team that I mentioned earlier. You have the former Stax president and owner Al Bell. You have guitarist Steve Cropper. You have the musician and singer Dave Porter, part of Sam and Dave. You have singer-songwriter Carla Thomas. You have Barcade's members, James Alexander and Willie Hall. You have those and more to recall those days, those literal glory days of Stax Records. Now, in advance of the premiere that, as I said, premiered last night, the director of this docuseries, good Lord, Jim Wignot, and former Stax director of publicity, Denny Parker, they decided to share their reflections on the label as well with Billboard. And they talked about how powerful the record label was, and how it just was such a force onto the landscape of what we now term as soul music. How important it was in the 60s to have this label, and then in the early 70s, and basically it's sort of it's supernova heyday. And it's a beautiful reflection of a record label that probably should have still existed, but well, it wasn't going to. And it's unfortunate when you think it through. But you had powerful members who had strong ties to the city that called Stax Records home. For example, Booker T and the MGs, Booker T. Jones. He attended Washington High School, and he was in a math class when he met up with a fellow student named David Porter, and I just mentioned him, one half of Sam and Dave. So Porter told Jones that, Porter told Jones that he and his saxophone player were needed immediately down at this recording studio that was run by this white brother and sister team. And how did he come about the name? Well, think of the last names of them: Jim Stewart and Estelle Axton. So the S-T and Stewart, the A-X and Axton, Stax. And that's how the name came about. Now, the magic of the sound, and when you really think about it, the magic was just so free. You had musicians and you had producers, and they really felt empowered. They didn't feel imprisoned to do a certain style of music. They were meant to do what they were meant to do, and they had the freedom in the record label to do it. And they would share ideas, and they would record spontaneously, just off the rip. And when you hear those types of accounts, it's a lot different than Motown, where it was an assembly line type of approach, where they would set a certain time, and you had a certain band, and you had a certain singer. You can't really say rapper back in the 60s, but singer. You had a certain singer, and then you had a certain producer, because for the most part, producers weren't singer-songwriters. That's what also made Stax such a legendary company, because they sort of was like, oh, okay, if you have the talent to write and sing and play, come on down. So it's funny when you think of Stax. It's not what you would call like an endless hit parade like you could with Motown, but they had their fair share. But unfortunately, what you would encounter with Stax, when you had a company that just went against the tide like they did, there was some financial hardship. Now, that was the result of the initially welcoming interest in the Memphis label. And part of it also influenced other record labels that were burgeoning and grew to be bigger. I don't know, like Atlantic. Now, Memphis is not that far from Alabama, where a lot of the sound that we would hear from Aretha Franklin in the 60s from Muscle Shoals would be derived. So, as a part of the powerful Atlanta Records label, they inked a deal with Stax, which allowed its talented artists much greater distribution than it would have been possible otherwise. But you also can see the problem that would actually be inherited. Here, let me see. In the 70s, you had Philadelphia International. They were searching for a bigger label to help distribute their stuff. And you had the songwriting and producing team of Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff. They were looking for the home to distribute their stuff, and Columbia CBS Records was the home. Well, they saw that Philadelphia International was pumping out pop hits, not just R&B hits, but pop hits. And then you had Epic and CBS wanting a little bit more of that, and then they would poach talent and material from Philadelphia International and basically starve them. Some things of that nature similarly happened with Stax and their relationship and arrangement with Atlantic. Because eventually, late in the 60s, Atlantic and Stax parted ways, and Atlantic made off with Stax's master tapes. And that was a contractual clause that, unfortunately, one of the founders did not look at the contract and the fine print. And by that time, the label had to essentially start over, which is when a former DJ, Al Bell, Master Promotion, he began to work his magic, and he rebuilt the roster basically from scratch. Now, the biggest, I would say, accomplishment for Bell, you remember the 1972, and I'm not saying because you all were living, because I wasn't living at the time, but I know you've heard in documentaries and in retelling of this story. You remember the 1972 famous concert, Wattstax, where you actually saw basically the whole roster of Stax, and of course, headliner was Isaac Hayes, who the year before created Shaft, and that very year won an Academy Award for the theme to Shaft. Well, also the festivities began from this Afro-wearing, Southern-sounding Chicago preacher. You know him by Jesse Jackson. That was one of his first public sightings. Now, he was on the scene a little before then because he was a protege of Martin Luther King Jr. and was actually there with him, if I'm not mistaken, in Memphis when MLK Jr. was assassinated. So you had this big time explosion of success for Stax in the early 70s. Now, you would think that with this mix that it would be being so harmonious, you would think everything would be fine, right? Well, on one hand, the studio was a rare haven for interracial collaboration, obviously. And doing this in the South was an extremely rare thing. But the good vibes that were created when the tapes rolled They were challenged by the sheer force of what they saw on the outside of the studio, especially when MLK was assassinated at the Lorraine Motel, not too far from Stax Records. That was like a fissure and a fracture for many in Stax. Now, what does this say in the long term about Stax? It says to me that you can have a wonderful idea, but if you can't execute it from a point of actually knowing the hiccups that could come along the way, and of course, if you don't look at the contracts that you sign, that you can be had and that you can wreck a whole lot of stuff. So unfortunately, the company had to go bankrupt in 1975, and then poof, the big time soulful phenomenon in Memphis turned from a record label that gave a lot of talented musicians hope into now, unfortunately, a museum where when people go by, they're like, oh, that's where Stax Records was created. And that's where they recorded their stuff. So it was very USA. Yeah. And yes, they went bankrupt in 1975, and they tried to refurbish it in many instances, but it just never, ever got off the ground. But a lot of good memories were formed and a lot of good memories were made. And I'm so thankful that we actually had this record label to even think about talking about all of the goodness that they created and put forth to the world. Now, if you want to have documentaries like this broken down in a 90-minute bunch, not like this 10 to 15-minute bunch here, you can go to the forecast. Now, last night they talked about OJ Made in America Part 3. They will do Part 4 next Monday. But you can catch the forecast live every Monday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 8:30 p.m. Central on Roku TV via BS3, and of course the BS3Live.com link as well. You can also catch them on the YouTube channels BS3 Network and the _forecast. That is the forecast live every Monday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 8:30 p.m. Central on the BS3 Network via Roku TV, the BS3 Network on the YouTube channel, and the _forecast on the YouTube channel. Oh, it's and the BS3 Network Facebook page as well. And that concludes the program Spotlight segment. Now, coming up next, the alliteration heard around the world. You've heard it, and you'll hear it again. This is the Morning Shift with Cole Johnson on the BS3 Network. We will return right after this.
The moderator.
As woman, you can't be too friendly, because the minute you're friendly, then they think you're flirting.
The level head.
I think so that thing is over. So I'm not looking at men like that anymore.
The truth slayer.
Okay, what in the HPV yeast infection is going on over here?
The X Factor.
So I'd rather you tell me everything up front and let's start fresh.
The intersection of life and spirituality never sounded this good. BS3 Network proudly presents Life Happens live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Kentucky, home of great natural scenery and Churchill Downs. The Bluegrass State has offered 3 jewels. The University of Kentucky.
And the Kentucky coronation is complete.
Troy Brown.
Some people from Louisville, from Kentucky, I don't like the Derby. Okay, cool. Like, all right, I'm going to keep it moving.
And Vinny Hardy.
Us growing up on the border, we all went to school with Tennessee fans. We all had some teachers that was Tennessee fans.
BS3 Network proudly presents Two men with Kentucky on their minds and all of the sports matters at hand. Cats Talk Wednesday, live every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Central. This is a BS3 Network presentation.
So, sit back, tune in, tell a friend. This Dope Cookie Show, we about to get started, and it's about to go down. Check me out.
Join your culinary master of ceremonies, Chef Jeff, as he introduces to you This Dope Cooking Show. Live every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Central.
Welcome back to the Morning Shift on the BS3 Network. I am Cole Johnson. And if you want to have sports done the way you would like it, in a way that you would be entertained and edified, check out the Lunch Break powered by JM&E live every weekday, not just today, every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern, noon Central on the BS3 Network via Roku TV and the YouTube channel Jones Media and ENT. That is the Lunch Break powered by JM&E with my man AJ, live today and every weekday, just like the Morning Shift, every weekday, but they're the lunch, not the morning, at 1 p.m. Eastern, noon Central on the BS3 Network via Roku TV and the Jones Media and ENT YouTube channel. Now back to the shifters. Before we continue, thank you for the appreciation. I appreciate that, my brother. Here is a returning shifter, one of my favorites, Viclock V like A3 or Vicla, the Jim McMahon. Oh, sorry, not the Jim McMahon. My bad. Thinking Chicago. My bad. The Ed McMahon of the Snowman in the Morning program. He says, "Good morning, all. Sorry I'm late. Good morning to the EP of all EPs, Cole Johnson, the Kingpin Snowman, and the Super Hacker, the Playmaker." And then we have the owner, the manipulator, and the operator of the BS3 Network, Benjamin Sadeth the Third himself. He says, "Good morning." And he says, look, he went to the Stax Museum himself. He says, "It is amazing, by the way." Yeah, it is. And I got to go back there, actually. It's been a minute since I've actually toured it. And actually, it's been a minute since I've been in Memphis. So, yeah, it'll be good to go back there and actually go back to the Lorraine Hotel, too. Now, you've heard the phrase. I know you've heard the phrase. Bleach blonde, bad built, butch body. Well, that came out of the mouth extemporaneously, I may add, from the representative from Texas, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. And it was in challenge to a statement that was slickly said in a hearing by Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now that trademark now that I should say that alliteration has been trademarked. Now, what does that say about either the person who is saying it or the person the person who triggered the saying? And should it be trademarked by the person who actually said it? On today's cover story, we'll touch on the powerful alliteration and the impact that it already has had on society in a short amount of time. Now think back to Thursday. Now, we didn't know this existed until probably maybe lunchtime, maybe a little after lunch, where it was this innocuous hearing. I mean, really wasn't anything that was going to be earth-shattering about it. And here's the challenge that came. So you had Marjorie Taylor Greene, who began the verbal back and forth with Crockett, And the statement that she said, which launched the alliteration, was, quote, I don't think you know what you're here for. I think your fake eyelashes are messing up what you're reading. Close quote. Oh boy. Yes, that actually was said in a congressional hearing. They were there to vote on Attorney General Merrick Garland in contempt of Congress for refusing to turn over radio recordings of President Joe Biden and his interview with Special Counsel Robert Hur. And that special counsel basically unearthed the statement, quote, well, President Biden is a wonderful man, but unfortunately, his memory is starting to go slow. Close quote. But now we're thinking about this hearing with, well, the insult that was sparked. And then the alliteration from Crockett was launched when she said, quote, I'm just curious. If someone on this community then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct? Close quote. And then Congresswoman Crockett went on to say, if I were to talk about somebody, that wouldn't be correct, would it? Basically sort of taking it from the ratchet end and making that similar statement a little bit more on the sophisticated side, but of course it does not have the same ring as if she were to talk stuff about somebody or crap about somebody that would be incorrect. Not like a bleach blonde bad built butch body, which I have heard many songs, I have seen many memes, and I have seen many videos that has extolled the virtues of Jasmine Crockett and the fact that she has said this name. And she said this to the person in which it was targeted. Now, why am I focusing on this myself? Well, the Democratic Congresswoman filed a trademark application Sunday for rights to the phrase bleach blonde, bad built butch body. The woman works fast. She says it on Thursday. She saw the potential for it to be viral and to be on the forefront of it. She leapt out in front of it and filed a trademark for it, which means if anybody were to actually sell shirts or any type of products for it, you have to actually clear it with her first, or you would have to give her a little bit of change in order to profit from it. Now, on that same day she filed the trademark, Sunday, she told CNN that she had wanted clarification on violations of protocol, and that basically was the reason as to why the alliteration was said in the first place. Now, if you were to ask her if she regretted anything that she said no, I don't regret a thing. And quickly the exchange, quickly after the exchange, I should say, Crockett began advertising. Quote, a Crockett clapback collection, close quote, on X, formerly Twitter. And she said in a post herself, quote, this collection will feature various swag that includes random sayings I've said. Close quote. Now, be aware. Now you will see this alliteration and saying on hoodies, on mugs, on shirts, on aprons, very soon, possibly, and we'll probably see it in that swag store by the Congresswoman. Oh my! So she herself said that she said the collection needs just a little a wee bit more time before she officially goes out public with it. But guaranteed, though, the first offering will be beach blonde, bad built, butch body. That'd be adorned on a black t-shirt in a photo attached to a post. And that would be first. Now, her trademark filing includes, or I should say, indicates that Crockett has plans to use the phrase to sell. As I said, clothing, hats, hoodies, socks, t-shirts, and even political consultancy. One of the trademark attorneys that USA Today interviewed basically said that the filing was discovered by them. And well, hey, more power to you. I mean, this is a country that, well, if you jump ahead, you can get anything sold, and hey, jump out in front of it. More power to you. I hope everything's good for you. And speaking of something good for you, if you really want good food and you want a good entertainment along with the food that is being prepared and served, you got to follow my man, Chef Jeff. I mean, this dude has cooked many things, from salmon burgers to Mexican lasagna and all points in between. Find out how these dishes can get cooked the way he does it in your kitchen. This dope cooking show, it is starred by Chef Jeff, and it is live tonight and every Tuesday evening at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Central. That is on the BS3 Network via Roku TV and the This Dope Cooking Show YouTube channel and the BS3 Network YouTube channel. That is This Dope Cooking Show live tonight or today and every Tuesday evening, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Central on the BS3 Network via Roku TV and the This Dope Cooking Show YouTube channel, along with the BS3 Network YouTube channel. And that is today's cover story. When we get back, working for more than just yourself or man. What does that mean? I'm glad you asked. This is the Morning Shift with Cole Johnson on the B3 Network. Be right back right after this.
This is a BS3 Network presentation. Adrian Shawan.
There was a man talking about where the homebodies at, where the women at, and the women was stitching it and was like, we at home.
Scotty Knox.
Another pet peeve of mine, right? First date, if you show up with the ponytail that come out at the top of your head, it will not be a second date.
Butler.
I want people to think independently and freely. She's not. $100 for lunch. I almost got up and walked off.
A show that asks only one question. Is it Wednesday yet? Live every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 8:30 p.m. Central.
See everybody talking like they doing what we doing, but these brothers is rare and they ain't moving like we moving, and everywhere we go.
Oh, yes. The tradition, the pageantry, the spectacle, the history, the slut. Wait. I gotta rep my brother's stuff right. All my DMV soldiers, stand up! And welcome to the Commander's Gridiron Report. You want your commanders to be repped right? Well, D. Willie is your man. Commander's Gridiron Report. Every Tuesday at 11:05 a.m. Eastern, 10:05 a.m. Central on the Sotoba Media YouTube channel. Music by J. Cool.
Where my soldiers? Right side. Commanders. Where my soldiers? Left side. Commanders.
Are you looking for something to do on your lunch break? Well, there's a show on the BS3 Network that has only 4 words to say to you.
We ready. We ready. We ready for y'all. We ready. We ready.
Live weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern, noon Central.
Welcome back to the Morning Shift with Cole Johnson on the BSU Network. And one more plug I may have to throw. If you want to see four siblings entertain you in ways that you never thought imaginable, well, you got to follow Nicole, Mika, Alicia, and King Doc. Those four are absolutely amazing human beings, along with the fact that they're very talented and entertaining individuals. You can be entertained and inspired at the same time from all four of them. Queen 3 and King podcast, where they talk about any topic that is socially relevant or even spiritually relevant. That's just how they roll. Queen 3 and King podcast, live every Tuesday, and might be live tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, on the BSU Network via Roku TV, and of course the Facebook channel, BS3 Network, the YouTube channel, BS3 Network as well, and also the YouTube channel at Queen 3 King Podcast 59. That is Queen 3 and King Podcast. It is live tonight and every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, on the BS3 Network via Roku TV, and on the Facebook YouTube page. BS3 Network page, and the Facebook BS3 YouTube channel, along with the Queen 3 King Podcast 59 YouTube channel. Now, I did mention working beyond just yourself, or even working beyond just man. What does that look like? How can you get there? What is the key to having that work success to the point where you work beyond you? And how is it successively tangible? Well, that is what's on tap for today's Lighting the Way. So I had a hiccup at work. I just wasn't picking up what they were putting down, so to speak. And all the signs were there in terms of the answer. But you know how you can basically have blinders on? Well, that was me. I had the blinders on because, hey, I thought I had all the answers, right? I mean, I'm learned, I'm college educated, I've done this for many years. I mean, this shouldn't be a problem. This should be a cakewalk, right? Wrong. Just because it was there, just because it was easy, just because I was able to do certain things doesn't mean that work all the time is going to be easy. It's just like life. It's a microcosm of life. It's a microcosm of marriages. It is not, no journey is ever easy. No journey that's ever worthwhile is always ever easy. You're going to come into some hiccups and bumps in the road. It's just with anybody and with anything. Work is of no exception. So if we have to give our life to God and we have to give up our marriage to God, well, what makes us think that we can't give up work to the Lord as well? I mean, Paul said it to a throng in Corinth. Yeah, I mean, he actually did say it. He actually did put it in there. He actually put it to them, quote, "Whatever you do, work heartily, as for the Lord and not for men." Close quote. So what does that mean? Okay, well, if you're blessed to be in a position of leadership like I am, and think about yourself first, that's where you'll go wrong. And that wasn't my hiccup. My hiccup was standing properly in the gap for them, but I understood that in charge, you have to stand in the gap for those who you're leading. My issue was I had to learn how to properly stand in the gap for those I'm leading. And so I'm in the midst of learning how to do that now. And it's fine. It's a hiccup. And we all have them. We all have hiccups. We all have slights. We all have times we trip up. But that's one of the biggest things as a leader that you have to do. You have to think of your charges before you think of yourself. And if you don't, your charges are going to look at you as if you have a third eye on your head. And they're going to think that you don't have the best interest at heart. Because if your charges do think you have their best interest at heart, they will work harder for you. And that's not something that you ask for. That's something that not even you demand. That is something that sort of is a compunction out of their heart because they don't want to disappoint you because they say that you care a lot about them. So stand in the gap for them if you are in a position of leadership. And heck, stand in the gap for anybody, even if you're not. When it comes to truth, you and your work will be spoken good of if it's done well. Also, when it comes to truth, you and your work will be spoken ill of if it's not. I had a good friend of mine, a brother of mine at work, who he forced me in an iron sharpening iron moment where he was like, you have to think about your reputation when you do certain things, because if not, it's going to be spoken ill. And it's going to be to the point where people are going to say, I just don't trust this person. 2.5 weeks later, I had that same conversation with him. And he says, man, whatever I said to spark you, I'm glad it did. I'm glad it took, because now everybody, including myself, has nothing but good things to say about you. Your character is upright. The fact that you're willing to be a team player is on point. The fact that you're actually willing to be a leader when we need to be is on point too. Everything is lining up to the character that I thought you had in the first place. So if you work unto the Lord, your work and you will be spoken good of. And that was the shift for me. I'm like, you know what? I'm thinking about me. Let's get out of me and let's get into God, and let's see how I can make this situation better. And I mean this situation improve like that for me. I don't claim that I'm perfect. I'm on this earth, so that basically nullifies perfection for me. But I am claiming that I am growing, and I am claiming that I am one who seeks out wisdom. Sometimes willingly and sometimes unwillingly. I'll even admit that. And it goes to the next point. People will assign your character to your work ethic. Like if they see that you are a sluggard, if they see that you are a sluggard, if they see that you are someone that really could give a crap about what is being presented in front of you, well, then they're probably going to say, well, he or she is not willing or not worthy of whatever respect I may have. That's just a no-go. And that's understandable. I would think the same thing. So if people think of you a sluggard, they'll assign the work ethic of, well, he's lazy to you being lazy. But if they see that you're hardworking, if they see that you're smart, if they see that you're willing to be diligent, if they see that you're willing to be communicative with everybody, and they see that you're willing to share, and that you're willing to be an open book, then they would say, wow, this guy is intelligent, this guy is innovative, this guy is a leader, and this guy is someone I love to be around. See the difference? Just with your work habits, Your character can be assigned it. And you can be a good person away from the job. But if you show tendencies of being a gossiper, well, then they'll just say, well, yeah, all they want to do is just sip tea all day. And I'm not just talking about literally either. Your character and your work ethic are aligned. And you have to be at one with that understanding. And then when you do decide to say, all right, God, I'm not really working for my coworkers, my subordinates, my manager, or my manager's manager, or even CEO of the company. I'm working, and I'm not really working for my family. Although those are motivating factors, of course. But I'm working for you, Lord. And when you work for God, it just puts a little extra into what you're doing. Case in point. The issues I had at work came before I started this show. Once I started this show and once I actually had a focus for it, I started to dedicate everything I did to God, and everything that I have done ever since has been markedly improved. And we've only done this show 2 weeks. I'm sorry, 3 weeks. This show is only 3 weeks and 2 days old. And so here it is. I'm working this show and I'm working everything as I'm working unto God, like Paul said to the people in Corinth. Because if you work hard for God, and you don't work hard for men, it's going to trickle down to men or women. And it's going to let them know, oh yeah, this guy is about something serious. And we got to take him serious. And that's what you want. Because that's what God wants for you. And then the blessings you receive, you won't believe all of what he has for you. And that is my hope for you. I hope you work unto the Lord as I have started to do, and I hope you reap all of the blessings that you will receive. And I can't say I received a big one, but I've received blessings already in the 3 weeks that I have committed to doing so. I hope and pray the same for you. And that is all the time I have for this wonderful program. Thank you so much, Shifter. I love and appreciate you. I'm glad that you joined the ride as you do each and every morning on the BS3 Network and the BS3 Morning Shift Cole Johnson YouTube channel. I love you. And all I have to say is thank you for liking. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for subscribing. And thank you for hitting the notification bell so you can catch every broadcast that comes from the Morning Shift, the BS3 Morning Shift Cole Johnson YouTube channel. For all of us here at the BS3 Network and the Morning Shift, I'm Cole Johnson, here to say imparting as I always do. If you lack commitment, you will never start. If you lack consistency, you will never finish. And if you lack love, you most certainly will never conquer. Until we meet again in 23 hours, have a great day, everybody. Be blessed. And I love you, Shifter. So long.